In today's video, I'm bringing together two of my favorite things in the whole wide world, and that's the TV show Gilmore Girls and The Sims 4. We're building Lorelai Gilmore's house. This is something I've been wanting to do for a really long time, but I just wasn't feeling emotionally ready. I knew that once I started, I'd be fully locked in and I would do my absolute best to do it justice and do it right, just once and for all for my girls. I first watched the show about 5 years ago, which I know is pretty late compared to longtime fans. The show's been out for a really long time, of course, but I immediately fell in love with the characters. The town, Stars Hollow, is just like an absolute dream, and of course it's just heartfelt and funny and the ultimate comfort cozy TV show. I rewatch it every fall, at least a couple of seasons or episodes, so I'm just really glad that I finally got around to doing this build. So throughout this video, you'll see in the top left corner the reference images that I used. I had to mix and match for some rooms. Some of the photos show, for example, like the kitchen before the renovations or after the renovations. So I did my best to balance all of that. We're also going to do a full walkthrough at the end of the video, including areas that are not shown in the speed build. Since we never see the entire house in the show, I took some creative liberties while sticking to references as closely as possible. I also moved the house to a different lot later on because I just needed more space. Initially, I really liked the environment of the original lot with the driveway over a bridge and the forest behind it. I just thought it was a really good fit for their house, but ultimately it was just too small to do all of the landscaping the way that we needed to. And you'll see that change later on when we get to do the exterior. The front yard setup was also really important because Lorelai's house is surrounded by trees. It feels like it's in the middle of a forest, but they're also like right downtown of Stars Hollow, however that works. So I wanted to try my best and give it that tucked away kind of like story feel. And I originally picked the lot that was, again, more similar to what's in the show, but since it ended up being too small, we moved the house. However, the final version of the lot, the one that I also uploaded to the gallery, it does include plenty of trees that I added on myself behind the house to kind of maintain that secluded, cozy atmosphere that they have going on. To guide me in building the layout of the house, I was extremely lucky. I didn't expect this, but I found the floor plan that someone actually created online. If you've ever tried to build a TV show in The Sims, you know that recreating those set designs can be a little bit tricky because the rooms don't always connect the way that they would in real life because they're built for filming and not necessarily realism, especially when it comes to different proportions. So having the completed floor plan both for downstairs and upstairs, which we basically never see in the show, was a huge blessing. One of the trickiest parts of this build was honestly just getting the house proportions right. As I'd mentioned, doing TV shows is a little wacky at times. I started by placing placeholder furniture to check the spacing between all the walls and all of the rooms before committing to the wall placement. And after I made sure to get the shape right of the whole house, I had to do a lot of resizing. And again, that's where the placeholder furniture was really critical. That's another thing that I noticed whilst building this house is that TV show houses, I guess they tend to feel bigger on the inside than they would actually be based on their exteriors. So I had to do a little bit of trial and error to make it work, but in the end, I'm honestly so happy with how this turned out. One of the great surprises of this build was that the roofing was a lot easier than I anticipated. I usually struggle quite a bit with roofing. It's so embarrassing. It just doesn't click in my brain. It doesn't make sense. I don't get it. I do my best though. And thankfully for this build, it was pretty straightforward. I only had a little bit of issues with the porch, like wraparound roof, but in the end, I remember the trick where you can just use a 4-point roof type and you duplicate that and lower it all the way down, and then you just place it on each side. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you'll see that in the build. It's a tried and true method, and it saved me from a lot of tears. I also did make some additional changes to the roofing after I was done filming. Nothing too big. I didn't change the shape at all. I just made some small tweaks to the very top part because there was a little bit of clipping that I didn't notice at first. For the inside, the living room and the kitchen were my main priorities because they're seen the most frequently in the show. And I just mean main priority as in, again, getting the proportions right and sticking to the reference photos as much as possible was really important for me. In addition to the roofing being a pleasant surprise by how easy it was the staircase that they have in the living room. It's such a core, like central piece, I think, to their house. They're always in the living room. The amount of times that Lorelai is late to something and she's running down the stairs or she's getting ready as she's on the stairs is just really iconic. So I was surprised. I was able to find the exact match. It's just a perfect fit, so that was awesome. While working on the fireplace here, I got so frustrated because there is no simple red brick white mantle fireplace, which I find bizarre because isn't that like the ultimate fireplace? When you think of a fireplace, that's what I picture in my head. I don't know if that's just me. Anyways, I was shocked in the worst way that The Sims doesn't have something like that. So in the end, I went with that dark brown swatch. Not perfect, but it's close enough, I guess, for this. This little nook here in the hallway, I think it turned out so cute. Initially, I went with a desk and a chair so that then it could actually be usable by Sims, but the desks in The Sims are just way too big. It was taking up the whole area, so I just went with an accent table and a chair. The Sims can't sit down and actually use it as a table, but it looks great, so that's all that matters. One thing I wanted to also mention is thank God that I decided to wait to do this build because now we actually have those round arches that are perfect. It's exactly what they have in the show, and I think it's just such a, I don't want to use the word iconic once again, but it's such a core part of their apartment, like all the different like hallway areas, and they're all those round white arches. So I just thought it was perfect because we only recently got that with the new pack. It's so exciting that we have this phone decoration item here because they have one exactly in that place. But I also just realized that now as I'm recording this, The Sims 4, as they're doing their time travel event thing, there's now an actual functional house phone item, and that would have been a 10 out of 10 match. I might go and add it in a little later, but the timing of that is kind of crazy to me. Hilariously, while going through all of the different reference photos when I was building, especially the living room, these girls have so many lights in their homes. I think there's like 6 lamps just in the living room alone. And each room, basically every corner has its own lamp. Whether it's a floor lamp or a desk lamp, there's lamps everywhere. I exhausted the lamp selection. But also, I guess that's really what makes it really cozy and inviting and kind of gives it that warm feeling, because I actually try and do the same thing in my house. I'm big on no big light allowed here. If you turn the overhead light, it's straight to jail for you. So I guess that actually adds up. It's just when I was placing all of them down, I was like, I don't have any more lamps. Like, y'all are gonna have to start having 2 of the same. I couldn't believe really as I was doing this that they have the world's smallest TV. Like, our girls have a dishwasher even though they don't like to cook, and it's like the personality trait that they always get takeout, but they have a dishwasher. But then at the same time, they're known to love TV. They're always watching TV or making references to TV shows, but they have this teeny little box. Make it make sense. However, we have a perfect match in The Sims, so I guess in the end it all worked out. But I just feel like they could do better, you know? Something that was quite frustrating when I was building this was the pain of curtains. We've actually been quite blessed in the past maybe year or two. The Sims team has given us quite a lot of new curtain sets, but they're all really, really modern or really, really over the top that you would see in a mansion, like a Victorian mansion kind of thing. So I went back and forth so much on which curtains to pick. In the end, the ones I picked, my logic behind it was they are a little more modern than what I would have preferred for them. But I said, you know, if they were to build their house today, what would that look like? But still be in their style. So I still think it has kind of that quaint touch and feeling because their original curtains are lacy and really dainty and feminine. So that was the closest I could come up with. I even tried to make my own combo by placing the lace short curtains with the long like floor to ceiling ones, but it was clipping too much and it just really bothers me, and I didn't want to upload that to the gallery in that state. So anyways, I think in the end it looks okay. Had to get out my curtain frustrations. For the living room, I focused on making it cluttered but cozy. There are books everywhere because of course our girls love to read. They're also like mini hoarders, not quite, just like in a cute way, you know. A special detail that I wanted to make sure to include in the living room is that small bust because Lorelai sews. So she makes Rory's prom dress and a bunch of other things throughout the whole show. So I just wanted to include that as a little nod to her fabulous sewing skills. She's a seamstress, so I just felt like we had to have it. There's not a lot of Lorelai outside of the TV, I felt, you know, because there's books everywhere, which is like Rory's thing. Sadly, however, I really struggled with this. There is one of those mannequins that you would find in like a clothing store, but it has the head, which takes away the realism of the bust that they have for seamstring, for sewing. But in the end, I think I found something that's close enough to capture the essence of it. It's just a sculpture basically, so you know, we'll just pretend that it's exactly like in the show and we'll go with it. And here we're just finishing up cluttering the fireplace area, the little bookshelf next to the TV, the reference photo here where they're all together. It's really just such a good representation of what I think of the house, which is it's kind of like the central point for a lot of different people from the town to get together and just hang out and have a good old time. We added that little armchair in the corner and of course yet another lamp. It took me a little bit to figure out which table I wanted to go with for the TV, and this is an issue of recreating a TV set in The Sims. That little area there is just way smaller than what it actually looks like in the show, but that's the only way to make the proportions of that room and the house work. So the space that we're working with is way smaller, so we're a little restricted for what kind of console table we're able to use. Of course, we had to add a little bit of artwork. I am also absolutely obsessed with using those two candlesticks. We just got those as well. I've actually used them in two different places in this build, and I always put two of them in the way that you just see me place there above the fireplace. I think it makes it look more natural than just having them side by side. I make sure to use the move objects cheat to give it a little bit more of a dynamic look, I guess. Another thing I wanted to mention is you can't really see what's on the left side of the living room next to the fireplace there. There's not a single image I could find online that shows what they actually have there. So I just added that love seat couch thingy. I think it matches the place and you can never go wrong with more seating. I also think that this lamp here with the little patchwork is a really nice fit. Also, the set of books that I placed on the ground under the bust or the statue, whatever, is just one of the best decor items or clutter items that this game has given us so far. I'm just a hoe for a good stack of books, and the fact that you can place items on top of it is just, it feels right. So 10 out of 10 on that as well. For the kitchen, I actually ended up going with the same set that I placed down when I was putting all of the placeholder items at the beginning. I think it's either from the cottage living or the kitchen kit that came out quite a while ago. I think that was one of the first ones to be released as far as build and buy. It was a really easy decision because the green is perfect, the style is perfect, so that was a little bit of a no-brainer. I really tried to make a round table work. There is one reference photo where they have a round table. However, in the end, it just didn't work with the sizing and the space of the kitchen. It was just a little too big. And if you've built in The Sims at all, then you would know the pain of trying to find round tables that work. They're either too small or too big. And I'm not being dramatic when I say that. The size is a little awkward. So I went with this yellow rectangular table instead. And it's still okay because that's actually exactly what they have in most of the photos that I looked at. It just wasn't what I pictured in my head when I think of their kitchen, which is maybe just a me problem. For the back wall in the kitchen here, I just used it as a chance to add some more storage type of cabinets. Again, this is something we never really get to see in the show, so just needed to kind of fill up the space with something. I was also glad that we had the exact same tiling that they have in the kitchen. The kitchen cart, it was so fun to decorate because I tried really hard to find the exact items that they have in that reference photo, and I think I got pretty close to it. Even that plate decoration up on the wall, so that was really exciting. The kitchen was maybe one of the most fun things for this build because it's just such an eclectic mix of everything. And it's funny because they're known to not like to cook and they eat poorly and they only do takeout, yet their kitchen is just a mess all the time. Or not a mess, okay, it's not mess as in dirty, it's mess as in don't touch my piles, you know, like, you know where everything is, and it's not like a health hazard by any means, but things are just a little chaotic, you know, they just kind of stay where you put them and not everything really has its own designated place. So I think the kitchen is like the epitome of what the Gilmore house style is, which is like mix and match of everything. A lot of thrift finds is what I'm picturing, a lot of like hand-me-downs or just random gifts from the town that maybe they don't even love, but they just keep and make it work. I went a little bit back and forth with the stove and the fridge. They're not from the same set, they're actually from different packs, but they still kind of go together. They're in a similar style. I do wish that we had the exact same color swatches, but actually, now that I say that, it's not in their style to have the exact same set. So see, everything just works out exactly the way that it's meant to. The decoration on the wall on the side with Rory's room, we're gonna update that. That's kind of, I use that as a little bit of a placeholder. I just wanted to start filling up this space. Obviously that's not what they have in any of the reference photos, like a board like that or whatever. So in the end, I think the item we went with was really nice. It's just the dark wood mirror with the different photos all around it. So it makes it look really homely and authentic and like lived in. So that was a really good find. And then later I go back and I added that shelf with the little plants inside of the tin cans. I don't know exactly what they're called, but I think it just creates the most perfect little like one piece. It looks like it's all together. I almost made a big oopsie here, which is I forgot to place the coffee machine initially in their kitchen, which would have been an absolute like straight to jail moment. But thank God I remembered and we have it there. All is good in the world. Oh, so one thing is you'll notice like in every single room I added mugs everywhere. These girls are known for liking their coffee. They always have a cup of hot coffee in their hand. I just think it's like a perfect little item to have all over the house. So yeah, I added it in the kitchen, I added it on the coffee table, I added it in, I think on top of like a couple different dressers throughout the house. So definitely made good use out of that. I tried to make a rug work in the kitchen. I couldn't really tell or remember if they had one, but it felt like the place was a little bit empty, and I tried to make a rug work, but in the end it just felt a little out of place, so we got rid of it. Here, before I actually found the wall plate decoration to place above the kitchen cart, I just went with that herb hanging thingy. I still thought it looked really cute, but we found something that was much better, so we do end up changing that as well. Here in this corner, it's kind of awkward. They actually have a water cooler, which I found kind of strange because I don't know if this is a cultural thing, but to me, water coolers are like an office thing. I would never expect to see a water cooler inside of a home. So it felt a little weird to add that, but I mean, we don't even have a water cooler as an item in The Sims 4, so the decision was sort of made for me. But I think even if we did, it would have just felt wrong to place it. But I just went with a little accent table, and actually I used an edge piece of the countertop set that we used for the rest of the kitchen, and then I just gave them another lamp and another cute plant, and then I added the calendar above it with the dog, and that's a little nod to the dog that they have in the show eventually, whose name is Paul Anka. So that's just for the girls. It looks a little childish and it's a bit too colorful, but I had nothing else to put there, and we needed a little shout out to Paul Anka. And now we're gonna just move on to Rory's bedroom. Although we don't get to see a whole lot of this in the show, I focused on capturing her love of books. I placed basically every single book item that this game offers. For the dressers, I thought that they actually match really well to what she actually has, but I did reverse them. So there's some images where the green one's on the left, and there's other images where the green one's on the right, and the TV also changes spots, but there isn't one where it's exactly how I did in the end, but I think it's just a better fit. The posters there are supposed to have this more like academic feeling because she has this map on her wall, but I couldn't find an item or like a painting or a poster that is a map, so I thought that was like a second best sort of thing. Also, how absolutely perfect are those bookshelves? They're little shelves, but they're made out of books. Like, Rory loves her books. It's just perfect. Her whole thing, if you haven't seen the show, is that she's smart, but she's also pretty, and she's this perfect little girl. That's basically her whole brand. So of course her room is covered in books. I basically used every last piece of book clutter that I could find, and I just threw it on the ground or on a dresser or a table. But yeah, so that item that's the shelves that are books, I just thought it was so perfect. She doesn't have that in the show anywhere, but I thought if she would find that or see that in a store, she would totally buy it. Like, come on, it's the most Rory thing ever. Also, if you haven't seen the show, so one of the things that just adds to her quirky personality is because she loves to read so much, she just has so many books, but she doesn't have enough storage for all of them. So she's had to get creative, right? She actually uses the space under her bed as storage. So there's a couple moments in the show where she's like, oh, do you want to see my book collection? And then she just lifts up like the bed sheets, and then it's like all these books under her bed, and everyone's like, wow. Anyways, in the game, I wasn't able to do that by adding books under the bed. However, second best thing was adding books under her dresser, and that worked. And I think it came out so freaking perfect. It's maybe one of my favorite things in this build. I know I've probably already said that quite a couple times, but so just really keeping it very on brand. And then also I added a bookshelf filled with books. The item comes like that. You can't actually place any individual books yourself. I added it on top of the dresser because there are a couple of books in the reference photos of her room on top of the dresser, and I tried to make just some clutter items work, but in the end that's what we went with, and I actually think it turned out nice. Even though she's a little problematic at time, like, you know, Rory has her moments where she makes some questionable decisions, she still has a very special place in my heart. I think a lot of us went through phases where she was like the it girl, you know, it's like, I just wish I could be Rory Gilmore. Maybe just me, hopefully not. But I just was excited to get the chance to make her room in her style and make her personality shine through. One thing is, I really wish that in The Sims, we had something in the middle of twin size bed, like a single person bed, and the double bed or queen size bed for two Sims. There's no such thing as what's a double in real life. There's only like a twin and a queen / king actually. So this bed here looks a little bit awkward because it's just on the smaller side, but then the next size up in The Sims is way too big and the room proportions would never have worked. However, I think that the bed that we picked in the end is a really good fit here, and same with the rug. It's so freaking adorable. I want that rug in my own bedroom. I wish I could buy something like that. Obsessed. Of course, we also added some wall decorations, some random posters, and Polaroids in the shape of a heart. I kind of wish it wasn't a heart because I don't think that's very Rory, but I do think hanging up photos of her and her friends would be something that she'd do. So added those items and also added the postcard board, what's it called, like a cork board I think, with all the different postcards from the debug menu. Normally you have to get those in the game through actual gameplay. I think you can get them in San Myshuno, but I just wanted to add them there because that's one of those things where it's an exact reference to the image that I used there, so couldn't pass up the opportunity. On the wall with her vanity dresser, I added some university swag items. I don't know what they're actually called. It's just those little flags that they have. So I added one to represent like how obsessed she is with school and with the Yale, and then the other one, it's a reference to like a book club. And then I also added a diploma because she's a little academic nerd, so had to represent. An item I almost forgot to add, but I'm glad that I went back in and fixed my little mistake, is the teddy bear on the desk. I never really noticed that in the show. I can't confirm if it's really there when they're filming, but there was one kind of staged reference photo of the set where there's an adorable little cuddly bear on her desk, and we have an exact item like that, so I made sure to add it. And then in place of where she normally would have the clothing rack, I added this little cart with books, like book cart I guess, because the clothing racks that we have in The Sims, they're very like, the one I can think of right now is from Moschino, and it's way too modern. Like that's not something that they had back then, that type of style of clothing, and it wasn't her style anyways. So I went a little bit rogue there, and I just added an item that I thought she would have instead of a clothing rack. And then the last touch for the desk was this really cute flower lamp. There's also a bunch of random items on the ground, like the hair dryer, more books, some clothing and bags and all the good stuff, because the photo you can see there, it's like her room looks a mess. So really tried to make that come through. After we finished up with Rory's room, I did go back to the living room. You know, just giving it a second look, I felt like there were some things that we could change to just make them a bit closer to the real thing. While I was working on decorating the entryway, that's when I found that perfect wall decoration item. That's just like some plates, like china plates, and I remember that that's exactly what they have hanging above the kitchen cart, so just made sure to add that in. For the hallway there, or entryway, I initially started making something, like we went one direction, and then you'll see there was like a major change that had to happen because I found the absolute most perfect item while I was decorating the bathroom upstairs. So initially I tried to make my own set of, they have this like accent console table and mirror on top of it with like a hat hook. It's like a very specific, and it's like all in one. It's one piece. But I thought we didn't have anything like that in The Sims, so I started making my own with different pieces, and I think like it kind of was giving that vibe. But then when I went upstairs and I was decorating the bathroom, I just came across one of those items while I was looking for a cabinet, and I just lost my mind because it's the exact same thing, from the color of the wood, from like the width of the piece, to the fact that there's a mirror in the center of it, the fact that there's a little spot for an umbrella. I tried to make the item with the hat hanging fit as well, but it didn't quite work out. But it just made me so happy. It was one of those random items that if I just saw that in the catalog, I'd be like, what is this? When would I ever use this? This is such a specific style, such a specific item. I don't even know when I would use that, but now I know. Now I know exactly where I would use it. I actually got to use it in one of my favorite builds that I've ever made, so cheers to that. Then we moved to Lorelai's bedroom. Here, I really wish that there were more reference photos for this. I really kind of built the whole thing around this one photo here where she's sitting on her bed being all sad. I do remember, like, I think it was one of the first couple of episodes, it was definitely the first season, there's one part where she's really late to Rory's like first day at school, and she's running late and she's rushing and she's getting ready, and we do get to see that she has this big white closet on the right side of the room there at the entrance. And then in the other photo we could see that there's a little dresser, so just kind of put two and two together. I do know that we have some paintings that are meant to go as sets that I could have placed in like 3 in a row, the way that you can see she has here in the room, but they were just not in the right style. So that's why I went with this pre-arranged set of paintings, and then that little one above her nightstand. And then I added this walk-in closet here next to the dresser, and that is exactly what she has in the bedroom. And I don't have a photo of it. I actually went back to that specific episode to watch it and see what the dresser looked like. Also in Lorelai's bedroom, I did use this rug that's from the Life and Death pack, which color-wise, I think it matches really well, but it does have skulls on it. So just don't zoom in too close on it and pretend that they're not there. Because I don't think that that's something that she'd enjoy having on her bedroom rug. But if you zoomed out enough, then you really can tell. And the bed that we went with here, the bed sheets aren't exactly what I wanted. I wanted something, again, with more of a floral vibe, or maybe even stripes could have worked. There just wasn't anything that the headboard then would have matched. So I chose to go for a better match on the headboard. Then I also added a bunch of clutter above the dresser because you just know that it would be a little messy in her bedroom. But yeah, I think in the end, it's giving Lorelai. Like, the wallpaper is very her. It kind of reminds me of the style in which they built their inn. So floral, cozy, vintagey. For this second bedroom here upstairs, I used an image of what her bedroom looked like after they renovated the house. Once again, the struggle is real and we only had one image to go off of. So I didn't show too much of building this, although I really did take my time. In the end, I think it looks really nice. I actually really like this bedroom, but I took a lot of creative liberties, and I feel like if Lorelai was to redo her bedroom today, it would look a lot like that. Like, it's still very much in their style, but a little bit more clean looking, less eclectic and all over the place. Okay, so we're done, I think, with most of the inside now. We're on the last little bit here, which is doing the outside. So I personally feel like a lot of the different scenes that they have out on the porch here are really critical or like crucial to the plot. It's a lot of like kind of big aha moments or like deep conversations that they have that take place here, and I just love nothing more than sitting out on a porch on a comfy couch and just gazing at the stars. You can have a cold drink, and it's just one of my favorite little summer activities. So I wanted to make sure to do my absolute best with this area. I could not for the life of me find a couch that I liked, or like a couch that was tagged as being an outdoor couch or bench. So the one that we picked here is technically like just a regular couch you're supposed to use indoors, but I thought, you know what, even the couch that they have doesn't necessarily look like it's meant for the outdoors either. So I think it works. I think it looks really cute, and I just wanted it to give like a cozy, comfy vibe, and I think it does do that. I added that hanging plant, which I love. It's really lush and full and green. We have, I think, maybe 2 or 3 candles because vibes, a book, and of course another mug. Also added an actual proper outdoor bench off to the side there, and a table with 2 chairs. So just lots of seating options for our girls. One item that I don't really use a lot when I decorate in The Sims is the decorative pillow, and that's because it doesn't just automatically snap. So that is really annoying to me. You have to use the 9 and 0 key to go up and down, and you have to size it up or size it down as well. So it's not actually that much work, but in my head it feels like a lot of work when I'm already spending hours on a build, so I end up just not doing it. But here I thought, you know, a special occasion, let's go all out. So I added, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I did 7th little one. I just thought that that could add a bit of dimension and a bit of a mix and match colors situation, and it just kind of completed the look we were going for, which was ultimate comfort, cozy vibes for outdoor summer evenings. Okay, so this is my process when I do landscaping, is I put the foundation down for all of the terrain paint. I kind of overdo it first, and then I erase what's outside of the actual greenery. I love this lattice item here for the back side of the porch that goes on the right side of the house. So I added the lattice, and then I also used some of the flowers that are supposed to go on the side of the house, but I just made it stick right up against the lattice to make it a little bit more natural looking, because the lattice on its own is just too clean, you know, and upkept, and that's not really their vibe. Another thing is here, I tried to make the terrain paint match what you can see on the outside of the lot. Although yes, we end up moving the house to a different lot, so in the end this doesn't even matter. I deleted anyways. But yeah, I just really wish that this lot was like one size bigger, and then it would have been perfect, but all good. The next step is just adding a bunch of hedges. I basically lined the entire house with them, and again, I overdo it first to make sure that the whole thing is filled up, and then I take them out. And I feel like this just helps me have like a good baseline, and then I go in and I add the accent bushes, if you will, that have different textures and different colors to make it a little more realistic looking. And then when I go back and I delete some of those original hedges, I see if there's actually any gaps between the accent bushes to then fill in the gaps. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's my process, and I feel like it works for me quite well. One thing I will note about this build is I definitely overdo it way too much. So not only do I go back and delete the hedges, I also go back and delete some of the actual like pretty looking bushes and stuff and the flowers, because I realized the one photo that I was going off of as a reference, it looks like a staged set, if that makes any sense. Like, that's not what it actually looks like in the TV show, but it is their house, so it just means it's way prettier, it's way more upkept and lush and green than it ever actually was in the show. But as you can see, there is a lot of greenery. It's just not necessarily like manicured, and they do have a lot of pretty little flowers, and like the hanging ones I think are also really nice. I added a whole bunch of those all around the house. It just gives it such a nice majestic look to it, I think. For me, landscaping is one of those things where I really can get carried away. I just can spend hours and hours doing it. I think it's such a fun challenge, like trying to make it as realistic as you can, because I think it's like a very crucial last piece to making a house in The Sims complete. So of course I was gonna give it my all with this build, and I made sure that every little detail was accounted for, and I do feel really good about the end result. Okay, so originally I had this build in Henford on Bagley. It was this lot here. It's a 30 by 20, which as we know now, it ended up being way too small. Sadness. So then I moved it. So it's in Winterberg as far as the gallery upload. So if you go on my gallery profile and you download the lot, this is where you will see it placed. For our little walkthrough, I decided to place it in Brindleton Bay. And that's really just because I wanted to have as much space as possible to add the trees around it. I also wanted to use a household of the characters from the show when I do this tour. I just thought that would be a fun little touch. And the one that I ended up going with, because there's so many amazing creations of the characters on the gallery, I went with this one by this user. I'm not gonna try and say that out loud because I don't think that I can, but I think they did such a good job. Luke is 10 out of 10, Lorelai 10 out of 10, Rory 10 out of 10. So check this out if you do want to play with the Gilmore Girls characters. Okay, so here we are. This is it. I love it so much. So I did add the shed after filming. There's nothing inside. It's just empty. You can use it as storage if you will, or you can use that as a little hobby room. We know The Sims tends to have very large objects for small hobbies, so that's a great space for it. I did add a non-usable car here. So this is what the landscaping ended up like at the front. I added some nice lighting and I did tone down the landscaping. I took out a lot of the greenery. It may not look like it, but so here we have our beautiful porch. I'm obsessed. I want this for my house. So I'm just trying to show you here the little side part with the bench and the lattice. Then here at the front we have, of course, the nice couch with the 2 seating area there. I think this ended up so cute. I'm really glad that we added those pillows there. That was a nice touch. And this is the little front or the entrance area. And now let's go inside. So here we are. Sorry, this wall is just like some random photos. This is that piece I just lost my mind about. Again, it's just, I can't get over it. It looks exactly like the photo. And this is just the other side, nothing too crazy. Now let's go in the living room. This is what this corner here looks like. Very cute, very cute. I guess not only do they have a lot of different lamps and lighting situations in this house, they also have a lot of seating. There's so many chairs in this house. Then we have this side of the room here, which I think turned out nice. And le piece de résistance, the center of the living room where all the magic happens. So here we have the little bust mannequin thingy on the bottom there on top of the stack of books. We have our little box of a TV, the armchair, the vase on the coffee table, the remote, a little used mug. So cute. I love this item that we have here behind the armchair. This is what it looks like from this angle. I'm super biased, but I think it's looking adorable. Next to the couch here, they have this, I don't know what you call it. It's like a little thingy to hold your magazines and books. And there's actually an exact photo where they show that they have that, so I made sure to add it. And so small, so tiny, but I love this little nook here with a little accent table, their phone, all of their mail. Of course, there's the mirror. This is a 10 out of 10 area, if you ask me. Now let's go into the kitchen. Oh, actually, wait. Let me show you this bathroom. Hello? Yeah, so it's teeny tiny, but gets the job done. Now, the kitchen. So, love this little area. So cute. Love this little area. So here we have a little mug on the dining table and a book, which I thought was a nice touch. We have to have their coffee machine, their mugs for all the coffee they like to drink. And then here is the other side with the stove, the little kitchen cart, more mugs. Now let's take a look at Rory's room. So here we are. This is her desk area with the little teddy, the cute little lamp, a bunch of books and clutter. There's the book cart, some laundry, all of the university flags and diploma. This is the dresser with that like bookshelf on top. So here we have this side. We had to have the big beautiful armchair by the window there, the red bench at the end of the bed, all of the posters and postcards, her little TV, and then of course, just the best part of this whole build, all of the books underneath her dresser. Yeah, so this is her room. I think it's so cute and cozy. Okay, now let's go upstairs. These are the stairs in the living room. In the show, they have a quilt that's just hanging on the wall. The name of this piece in the game is actually, it has the word quilt in it. It doesn't really look like one. It just kind of looks like a painting or like piece of artwork. But we're just gonna pretend that it is the blanket or like the quilt they have. Okay, so when you get to the upstairs, this is like the main area. There was not a single photo reference online, so just kind of used my imagination, tried to match the rest of the house as much as I could. I just added this little set of like medals and trophies because I thought Rory's the type of person to have all of those. And then on this other side, we just have a bunch of books, more decorations, a weird little like portrait, and a little desk to sit at. Let's first check out Lorelai's room now. This is it. So this is the side with the dresser, also the big closet on the right, and this is this side. And here is this area that I decorated just after filming that I didn't have in the speed build, just to add a little more something. It was just so plain before, I felt. But yeah, I think it turned out quite good given the fact that we didn't really have much to go off of. And now let's take a quick look at the guest room. So here we are. I think it turned out so good. I really like this room. It's not like quintessential Gilmore Girls, but again, the point of this one was, what would it be like if they were to have infinite money and resources and they were doing a little reno moment in today's times? So it's just like a little more refined and cleaned and modern. And I absolutely love this mirror here with some shoes at the bottom, and then this beautiful vanity. Now let's take a quick look at the master bathroom. Pretty simple and straightforward. I do really like that cabinet there on the right side of the sink. And this is the tub, toilet, and more clutter, more clothes on the ground. So that's the end of this video. I had so much fun building this house. I really hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope that you think I did this house justice. I will have this up on my gallery as well, so you can download it and use it yourself if you'd like. And thank you so much for watching.